What's going on, guys? Today on Game and Review, we're going to be looking at the newest weapon in my arsenal, the EVA 8 Auto Shotgun. It's one of those guns that's really strong, but only in the right hands. That's why in true Game and Review fashion, we're going to go deeper than the stats of this weapon and focus on the strategies that make this weapon a top contender on PC and why you should consider it more on console. It's important to note that the map themselves also dictate the viability of weapons, and this is especially true for the EVA 8 shotgun. That's why clips where you see big plays, they are typically made on the same maps. Some layouts are just a lot better for shotgun play than others. And mobility is a really big thing. I know I talked the hell out of it in my last video, but it's important because with a shotgun, more than any other weapon, if you can't mobilize, you're going to do poorly. Unless your plan is to camp an objective in hardpoint or CTF, this gun is not going to be very useful to you. I need to stress that because from what I saw online, it was people with bad mobility giving it a bad review and those with good mobility rating it a lot higher. And for people who do reviews without having all the attachments, you're killing me a little bit inside. But since we're on the subject, let me tell you that I'm going to recommend the extended clip, which bumps you from 6 to 10 on the ammo count, as well as Tactical, because I think you really need to have your ability up. When you're going to be doing close quarter combat, you're going to be running into a lot of unsuspecting things, so you're always going to need your ability up all the time. It doesn't matter whether you use phase shift or stim, those are probably the best two, and those are the ones I'm going to focus on. But regardless of what tactical ability you're going to be using, the Tactical attachment on your gun is pound for pound the best attachment in this game. Now, one of the really good things about having the extended clips is in attrition, you can just mow down any of the grunts. Spectres take a couple more shots, and Stalkers don't even mess with them with the shotgun. It is very weak. You'd figure it'd be strong, but it's actually not. You're better off still using your anti-Titan gun. In regards to ordnances, I ended up going more so with the arc grenade. I did go through a phase with the frag grenades because I did like having a little bit of range. When I saw people far out into the field, sometimes I wanted to be able to engage them. And the thing is, with a shotgun, you only have one choice, and that's to keep going forwards. And that's actually a big lesson when using shotgun. Never go backwards, because you always need to continuously just be moving. The shotgun just does very poorly when you get surrounded. And that's really the case for every weapon, but since you are going to be getting in people's faces and going really deep into spawns, you're going to find that it happens a lot more often. The best thing to do is when you wreck an engagement is you just continuously move forward and just try to completely bypass them and then try to reach them again. Mobility, such a big thing, and this is the reason I use phase shift. It lets me just cut that distance while being safe. That's why this is my recommended ability. The only other ability I'm going to be covering is going to be the stim. Now, phase shift to me is just so good because it gets you out of AoE damage. I've actually thrown my own smoke at my feet and then just used my phase shift. It's just really tricky, and when you start getting into those higher levels of other people that use phase shift at this level, or when you're going up against people that are just very familiar with the ability themselves, then you get into that next level thing. Because there are some players that are really predictable that go into corners and you just end up phase shifting right into them. And then there are other players that are thinking one step ahead of you. And the phase shift ability practically negates turrets. You can just activate it twice to cut the distance to get it, or you can just get past it enough that you can go engage the pilot and then go back for the sentry itself. I can talk about at length about phase shift, but we're going to move over to stim. Now, stim lets you do those like matrix jumps out of nowhere. You just get this immediate burst of speed that you can use to either outmaneuver people by just zigzagging, because some people actually have a really low sensitivity. This is more on the console side. And you can just make it so when you're cutting the angle around them, they can't turn fast enough to actually shoot you, and that's how you cut the distance. Now, if you remember me telling you about maps, Angel City is probably one of those examples where this weapon does not do particularly well. Because when everybody's up on rooftops, there's a lot of angles where people can see you trying to jump towards them. That makes it really unsafe. It is actually a lot harder in levels like Angel City, as well as the level with the bridge. What's that called? Where a lot of people love using their AWOL and hemlocks. That's another hard level. Sometimes I'll do a quick change of kits. I'll actually use my own AWOL, clear the bridge, make them think twice about it, and then go back to a shotgun when they start moving away from there. And those are actually things that I like to do. Switching up your kits on people will really throw them off. And this is one of the harder maps to actually navigate. The bunny hops are a little bit harder, especially if you're going the opposite way. When you're trying to go uphill, you really have to spam it. You really have to be on your timing. And just overall, I'm not actually sure which rocks you can wall run on, because there are some that you just don't stick to. So this is one of the maps that's not the best because it's a little bit harder to know which things you can run on until you get more experience with the map, but it can be really good once you know those things. This is another map that's really good for the shotgun, and I want to show you how the terrain plays a part here. I actually had a really bad bunny hop, very little momentum, but the reason I slid past that next guy was because the terrain was sloped down. Now this next example isn't a generalization for everybody, it was just one of the examples that I had that I wanted to show people. If you're casually using your grappling hook and someone else is casually bunny hopping and chasing you, you can usually catch up to them. If they're using stim, for sure they're going to catch you, even if you do one of those power moves with your hook shot. And that's why even though you're godly at using your hook shot, when using a shotgun, I really think you're either going to need to take the phase shift or the stim. If not, you're going to have a really hard time out there. The other thing I was thinking about using was the pulse blade. I actually never use the pulse blade. It's I don't know. I just find the other abilities so much better. But I know when somebody else is using a pulse blade, I love it. So if you're somebody that's really good at using a pulse blade, then, you know, go ahead, because if you do know where they are, I see the shotgun being extremely strong. So, you know, if you're really good at something, don't listen to me. I'm just showing you what works for me and what I think is most viable and easiest for other players to also use. Now, let me tell you something about myself. I love aiming down sights. It's a habit I had to get out of because every other gun kind of makes me do it. It's also full auto. This is something I forget every so often. So remember, you can just hold the trigger. You don't have to do the single press. But if you want to, go ahead just so you have that little extra control. I actually do a lot of single presses instead of a lot of full auto. But it is good to do when it's harder to aim, like when you're sliding or wall running, then just let it rip. So one of the things that I cut out from these videos is all the travel time, but I think it's actually really important to take note of it because I'm doing a lot of flanks when I'm playing these days. Since my mobility is a lot better, it really takes no time to go around the map to get behind people. And that's the secret to really racking up the kills in this game. Taking the time to invest in a good flank is very rewarding. That's how I typically get most of my kills at the beginning of the match. I set up for a really big flank and to end up taking out the enemy team. If you've noticed, anybody who ever gets high scores in this game, their mobility is very high unless people are walking into some sort of AWOL meat grinder. And they're also getting these flanks that make it seem like people are very unaware. But sometimes that's what it is. There's so much things going on in front of people that they forget to look behind them. And now that I'm thinking about it, your point of view is dependent on your field of view, right? So I had some advice from Zach that you should turn up your field of view. I'm actually at 100 now, and that's from the standard 70 that the game starts with. So it lets you have a little bit more peripherals, which really comes in handy when you're going into that close quarter combat. Being able to just see a guy out of the corner of your eye by actually extending the size of that is actually a really big deal. I actually ended up changing it just a little bit on Battlefield, but I actually kind of like it in Battlefield because sometimes I'm looking in the distance and it's hard enough to already see guys. But in Titanfall, you can definitely afford to increase your field of view. So I definitely recommend you guys check that out. Otherwise, we're pretty much getting to the end of the video, guys. If you guys have anything to add on the EVA 8 shotgun that I didn't cover, make sure to leave it in the comments. I'm always interested in your feedback. If you guys want to play a game, some Battlefield, Titanfall, Destiny, make sure to add me. We're also doing some Rocket League. If you guys want to play, make sure to add me on Paper. Cut to you. This is Game in Review, and I'll see you guys next time.